Welcome to Cinemaphile, where we showcase the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers and talk to them about their work. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar. You can listen to other interviews by going to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar at Spotify. In her terrific new documentary film, Shari and Lamb Chop, director Lisa D'Appolito takes us back to a time before there was Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, to the world of Shari Lewis and her lovable cast of puppets, including Hush Puppy, Charlie Horse, and the most beloved puppet of all time, Lamb Chop. In 1960, while in her early 20s, NBC gave Shari Lewis her first national network show, The Shari Lewis Show, replacing The Howdy Doody Show. Lewis quickly became a pioneer in television and changed the face of children's entertainment. I loved this program. I love this woman, and I'm so happy to be able to welcome back to the program the director of Shari and Lamb Chop, Lisa D'Appolito. Lisa, welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is great to talk about Shari.
Yeah, I am so glad that you made this film, and I'll be honest, I'd kind of forgotten about her. You know, with all the stuff growing up, there were other people who came along, the Sesame Street and others who came along with puppets. Even Pee-wee's Playhouse had a very similar vibe to what Shari Lewis set in motion, with puppets that talked not like children so much as younger adults in a way. I don't know if that is exactly accurate, but so I love seeing her. I love seeing her energy and everything. How did you get onto this particular subject? What was it that prompted you to want to make a documentary about her?
I think I'm always looking for inspiring female performers. And I think Shari was one of those underestimated talents that I wanted to bring a light to really show that she was much more than just, Shari Lewis and Lamb Chop. She was more than a children's entertainer. She really had a full life and she was amazingly talented.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my impetus, is really to really show how amazing she was.
Obviously, we see this in the film. She was quite a good singer. I think underrated in terms of her ability to sing, and she was a dancer. There was a certain physicality to her that I don't think she was a very tall woman, she didn't look like she was much more than about, what was she, about 5'3", 5'4", something like that?
4'11".
4'11"?
Yeah, I think so. I think she said she was 5 feet, though. She was 4'11".
But she had this really amazing energy around her. Just sitting there, you could feel that energy coming off of her. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think, well, she was raised that way. I mean, she was raised, her mother was the musical director for the New York City schools, and her father was a math professor, but he was also the official magician of New York City. So they both believed in really entertaining children and educating them at the same time. So Shari grew up in this amazingly colorful house with these really talented parents who really gave her the opportunity to shine.
Yeah, they certainly did. And in terms of her breaking into television, what was there something, how did she get the reputation? How did she get to that point in her life where NBC gave her a program?
Well, I think she was been performing since she was a kid. Okay. So she was on television shows, and then she won the Arthur Godfrey talent show, and that just started her being on shows and then getting her own shows. So she was pretty much a host from the time she was a late teen. So I think that's how it started. But Arthur Godfrey, I think, was the pivotal moment of her getting her own TV show.
Not to put you on the spot, but is there someone in more modern, closer to this time that we are here in 2023, that she is like, for someone to be compared to Shari Lewis? Is there
No, I don't think so. I think there's only one Shari Lewis. She was raised the way she was raised, and I think education and entertainment, the combination of the two of them. I mean, maybe there's someone out there, but was also the best the best ventriloquist of all time. Because if you watch her, the camera gets really close to her and you can't tell. And she's singing and she's holding two puppets at the same time. So I can't think of no one so far has come along that is a Shari Lewis.
And she has conversations with both of these puppets, sometimes, in rapid fire conversations back and forth. We see that in the film a couple of times, in addition to the things you just mentioned. And you're right. And she had a beautiful way of smiling while she was doing what she did so effectively as a ventriloquist. She was really good at hiding the fact that she was a ventriloquist, right?
Yeah, I mean, somebody saw like a screening of the film, and they said they didn't ever really realize growing up she was a ventriloquist, because it was so normal to see her with lamb chop or see her with the puppets. You didn't think that she was actually doing it all.
Let's talk about the creation of these. I mean, we mentioned Hush Puppy and Charlie Horse, and there's a beautiful part of the film where when she created Lamb Chop, that moment for her there was a realization that she had when she found that voice for Lamb Chop. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Up until that point, she had big ventriloquist dummies that
Yeah.
everybody else had, very big mechanical. She had Taffy Twinkle and I can't remember the other one, but she had the big dummies, and she was going or personages. I'm not sure what you want to call them, but she was going on the Captain Kangaroo show, and they asked her to bring something smaller, and she had Lamb Chop, but she didn't really work with her before. And then once she worked with her, she called her father, and she's like, this is it. This is a magical moment. So that was sort of how Lamb Chop was created.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some reference in the film that Lamb Chop was more her than anything she had ever created before. Is that?
Yeah, but I think all the puppets were a different part of Shari.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Lamb Chop, obviously they looked alike. They both had big eyelashes. And their mannerisms are very similar. And Lamb Chop could say things that Shari couldn't say, especially as a woman in the 60s. So I would say that's true.
What was it about Lamb Chop? What would you say in terms of the personality of Lamb Chop? You sort of described it, but was it attitude? Was it maybe what you just said? It's because of what she said as
Well,
Lamb
she's
Chop.
sassy, and she was cute, and she's a lamb. I don't know. And she has big eyelashes. I think everything about her, she's just, I mean, as people have, when we've interviewed them, she's just a sock, really, but she's magical. Like, that's the one word that always comes with Lamb Chop is magic.
It's actually hard for me to talk about it because I am so invested in that period of time in my life that it just takes me back to those moments watching her. I think she was on, correct me if I'm wrong, she was on multiple times during the week, right? Was she on more than?
Yeah, she was on two shows at the same time.
Okay,
She was
wow.
on Sherryland, Hi Mom at the same time. She did two shows, and I think with Shari Lewis show, she was on 5 days a week.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Kind of an after school thing, as I recall. The energy involved, and they talked about in the film, just being able to do songs. She did a song or two every day on the show.
Well,
I
she
mean,
was really highly intelligent too. And her dad, as a magician, had taught her all kinds of tricks of memorization. So as a kid, she would memorize cards. And so she can really memorize a lot.
you mentioned earlier in our conversation that she's in some ways underestimated. What is there a one thing, or is there kind of a combination of sexism and other things? Why do you think she's underestimated?
I think because she created Lamb Chop, and Lamb Chop is so big and lovable. I
Yeah.
think it was really hard for Shari to have a career without Lamb Chop. And I think she tried. She moved out to LA, and she was on all these TV shows. And I think no matter how talented or whatever she did, people would say, "Where's Lamb Chop?" So I think that that's one of the reasons. And I think she was pigeonholed as a children's performer, and it was really hard for her to break out of that.
Well, the film is called Shari and Lamb Chop. It's a documentary film. What you found out about Shari Lewis, like through Mallory and through the different people we see in the film, was there something that struck you as unusual, something that you were surprised by, or just sort of reinforced some other notions that you had about her?
I think nothing ever let Shari down. She didn't let herself get down.
Okay.
When she went out of fashion, she would reinvent herself. When she wasn't a children's performer, she would go to Las Vegas. When that wasn't working, she would become an orchestra conductor. And what's not in the film is she wrote like 50 books. too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she was always busy. She was always doing something. And she was, even though she wasn't on television, she was quite successful in those down years because she was always performing, always writing. She had all kinds of merchandise. So she was a pretty successful person. But I think her perseverance is what I respect the most, like that nothing ever let her down. And she kept going until she's back on television in her 60s. And that's pretty phenomenal. I can't think of anyone else who's had that kind of career, who has that. I mean, it's a big comeback story. And with ageism and everything, I think the fact that she was able to be on television and she's in great shape and she's singing and she's dancing, and I think that's really inspiring.
You have the sense, and she was also able to push through a lot of personal travails as well in her marriage, and which we see in the film, and come out on the other side of that. Yeah, it's easy to. You're right. I'm just going to restate something you said earlier. It's easy to say, well, she had her run, she had her children's show, good on her. And I mean, what drove her? Well, is there something? I mean, you said it. Maybe you said it earlier with the fact that her father was a magician. She came from a family of people who strove to be better.
And also, if you look at her performances, she loved performing,
Yeah.
loved audiences. She just loved it. She was the ultimate performer. There's a part in the film where someone talks about her in her downtime that only 4 people showed up to watch her in the show, but she did her whole show and she did it with enthusiasm. Yeah. So I think that's pretty incredible.
Your previous work, Love, Gilda, about Gilda Radner. There's something about Gilda that is endearing in the same way that I find Shari Lewis to be. There's something that seems inside them to be positive, that they're wired to be embrace life. Is that, am I being fair?
Yeah, I think that's what drew me to Shari, is the same feeling of Gilda, is when you hear about them and you hear about Shari and Lamb Chop, it touches your heart. Like there's something emotional, like an emotional connection. And I think that's something, in some ways, I feel like Lamb Chop is Gilda. They're very similar in personality, that feistiness. But I think both Shari and Gilda brought such joy to people.
Yeah.
And also there's like a nostalgic element that you remember where you were when you were watching them.
Yeah.
There's such an emotional connection to both these characters, and I think that's pretty rare.
I completely agree. I absolutely remember sitting in front of the TV, my black and white TV, watching Shari Lewis and Lamb Chop. So you're right. I mean, it's absolutely true. She's, got to know her a little bit better through your film, Shari and Lamb Chop. And gosh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that she will hopefully for a whole new generation, a whole new audience, be able to be appreciated in the way she is in your film. And thank you.
Well, thank you. And I also think with YouTube, Shari's daughter Mallory still performs Lamb Chop. So sometimes I'll go with her and I'll see that Shari has a lot of young new fans because of YouTube. Their parents are introducing her to the shows. So I think that's pretty cool that her legacy can live on that way.
No, it's awesome. It's great. It's great to see her in the way I remember her, as someone who had a big smile, clear-eyed. She'd look you dead in the eye. It feels like she was talking to you when you were watching her. And I'm so happy for her. By the way, in her career, she won 13 Emmys and a Peabody, published 60 children's books, and found a way to continue to be an entertainer until practically the day she died. And there's some scenes in the film that you will know what I'm talking about when you watch this film, for people who are listening to us.
And it makes me feel good that that Shari, this is bringing back memories of Shari, because I think the film is resonating with a lot of people. I think it's pretty surprising.
I tell you what, it takes me back to an unfiltered time in my life. I was completely unfiltered. You'd watch this show, completely taken in by her and her characters and everything about her. And as a battle-hardened adult, you kind of drop your guard when you see her. Once again, the film is called Shari and Lamb Chop. Just a beautiful film. Seek it out. And we're honored to have back with us on the program the director, Lisa D'Appolito. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar, and you can listen to previous interviews as well as special programming, or you can subscribe by going to Cinemaphile, that's F-I-L-E, with Mike Kaspar, at Spotify. Until next time, thank you for listening.